Welcome, everyone. I am Dorothy Collier. I am one of the co-founders and director of creatives at Arrow Creative. I'm really excited to be sitting with Whitney Winkler, who is a local Memphis artist today. We are just really going to be talking about launching a collection. In Whitney's case, it's art, it's fine art. But really it's just about launching a product online and in some cases selling it out. And that sounds incredible. And it sounds like something that we would love to be doing, especially in this COVID world when we can't even leave our houses. You know, I know a lot of y'all have had sales. I mean, everybody's been impacted. Market sales. I see lots of names on here that, you know, this is the market crew. This is the art fair crew. And, you know, I remember when I was doing art shows, those booths were thousands and thousands. And maybe sometimes like April was a quarter or 40% even of my annual sales. And so, how is there a way that we can grasp our followers, grasp our fan base, and really lead them to the shopping cart online? And Whitney's going to teach us how she's done it. This hasn't been 20 years in Whitney's making. She doesn't even look like she's 20 years old. She hasn't had that much time. You know, she's only been painting for so long. So thank you, Whitney, for hanging out with me.
Of course. So happy to be here. Hello, everyone.
If you do not follow Whitney, it is Whitney Winkler Art on Instagram. And I want to like put a caveat in there that we're going to be talking a lot about Instagram. That's not the only way to sell. It's just the way that Whitney and I have seen success. If you don't have a large following on Instagram, if you haven't even really started with that, don't get too discouraged. You know, take all the steps minute by minute, day by day, write down, you know, if you might have some questions, then write them down and write them in the chat box. We want to answer them. At Arrow, we have some Instagram classes previously, and we have some more that are going to be coming up in the near future. So we have email marketing that's going to be coming up. We've got lots of things. If there is a topic that you want to learn more about that you feel like you don't know that information, we want to host a class on it or a Zoom conversation like this. So we're open to anything and everything. I feel like I've given a lot of bullet points of like, if that, then this. But we're excited that y'all are here, and we're here to help anyway. If we don't have the answer, we're going to try to find it for you. So, Whitney.
Hi.
You have been selling in person and online for a long, long time. I wanted to get you because you have fine art, but you also have products. And so it's not just like fine art collectors. You're also grasping people that are gonna buy something for $20.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and I was gonna, like, you kind of, I know you haven't asked a question yet, but like, you did say I've only been doing this a couple of years, which is true. And I hope that's an encouragement to people, like that it's not this like decade-long thing that, you know, like I feel like we're all just responding to what's being thrown at us as social media is constantly changing. So anyway, it's a place anyone can start, really, truly.
Yeah, totally.
So just to qualify that, like, but yeah, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
Well, so I'm sending someone a link. It went to their college email. Oh, so I'm sending her a new invitation via text. So why don't everybody in the chat box, while I'm asking Whitney this first question, why don't you write if you have, like, yes, I have an Instagram account. yes, I have a website, but that'd be helpful. Okay, so I'm pulling up my questions. I feel like I've already answered this, but for you, I'm known to do that and just talk and talk. How big of a role does social media play into your creative business?
It's really the driving force behind what I do. Although in-person shows are a huge connecting point for me with customers, because they literally meet you and see like, this is a real person that made this. So like, not having that now has made, you know, me lean in all the more to the social media aspect of it, although that was pretty much what I was doing anyway. But you know, you always hear like, diversify your revenue streams, and like, I sort of thought that was like a buzzword until a global pandemic hits, and then you're like, oh, because you know, one of the revenue streams I have is wholesale, and that was literally gone overnight with this, like obliterated. So I mean, slowly trickling, but just not what it was. I had a whole employee dedicated to it and have had to rework her entire job. So revenue streams are everything. So I think that, like, you know, we've got to be kind of working a lot of different zones at once, sales wise. And that can feel really overwhelming, but I hope like we can unpack that a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And that can also, I'm writing that down right now, being like a revenue streams class, because at one point in time in the height of Dorothy Art, I had about 6. Yeah. And you need that because markets, rain, markets, pandemic, online sales, people are like, I want to meet the person and, you know, I want to meet the artist. You know, wholesale is a good steady. That's a good steady. So until a pandemic. So maybe we just might need to have a whole session on revenue streams as well. But for the purpose of online sales, you have found real success in launching collections.
Yeah. And again, that's been fairly recently. I, within the last year, 2 years probably, have been like actively pushing like online collections. Before that, it was more just web-based sales and then in-person market sales. So, but as far as, you know, gathering a body of work and pushing it out, that's been more recent for me.
Yeah, and so the theory behind launching a collection, I've found, and I've heard artists that I followed say it for years, and then I would, you know, follow them and get on their website to buy a piece of art, and it would have already sold. And it was that scarcity that they were selling. They were selling that limited edition. And for those that are listening that aren't artists, that doesn't mean like I make a candle, it's always gonna be what it is. So I really, you know, there's a Courage collection sells the cutest little headbands in our Arrow gift shop. She has a spring collection and a fall collection, and I think even, you know, winter and summer. So she does it 4 times a year. So she has these releases, and, you know, if you miss that pattern, you miss that pattern. So I want people to think broader in the sense of collection launches. Okay, so there's a billion details into the actual like idea of a product and then launching it online. What have you found? Let's first talk about where you organize your ideas. How do you schedule your day, like from launch backwards to making the product?
So again, going back to revenue streams, a big part of my business is commission based. And so that, like, meaning, you know, I'm working for people making paintings. That's happening all the time, but then I actually block out time. Like I'll push out commissions longer for a collection. And I might not even know what that collection is, but I'm just like looking at like May and I'm like, okay, I'm going to dedicate 3 weeks in May to developing landscape paintings or whatever it is. And so for me, that doesn't look like that I know exactly what it's going to be, but I always have a running list of ideas and then just kind of implementing those in those blocks of time, more based on what I'm feeling at the time. So like I've had on the books for a long time to do butterflies and just haven't done it. And then literally was just like, okay, now's the time for butterflies. Like I'm feeling it, like, and strike while the iron's hot. And then put that in this collection that I'm launching on Friday. But when I thought about that collection a while ago, butterflies weren't part of it. So it's sort of a moldable thing. It's like the framework's there, the bones of it are there, like the time's blocked out, and then the what I create is more based on the impulse for me.
Yeah. So we'll be referencing Friday's launch a lot. You're calling it your May Day shop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way to look at it. You're celebrating that day. That collection has a lot of products inside. So it's basically kind of like a reopening of Whitney Winkler shop.
Yeah.
And then you do some where like it's just moon paintings.
Yep.
I'm going to have 5 big moon paintings and 8 small moon paintings, and these are the moon painting launch.
Yeah.
So there's 2 different ways to look at launching a collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really looking at this as sort of like a market, like what are products that someone could only normally get at a market, and then do that. I haven't like said it that way to the customer, but that's sort of how I'm viewing it, like it having sort of what that would feel like in a spring market.
So really going into the scheduling of a launch. Okay, you block out, you say, I know for those 3 weeks, I'm going to create landscape paintings. And on, on March 30th, the landscapes are launching.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about how you lure the viewer on Instagram in. There's a million ways to do it. So what are some of the best practices that you've seen while you're creating?
Well, so, I mean, everything about being a creative, as y'all will probably relate with, is so vulnerable. So you're letting people into the very start of that vulnerability of the creative process and sort of saying like, come along with me in this journey. And a lot of times the customer's actually figuring out what I'm doing or why I'm doing it alongside of me. Like, I feel like I'm unpacking that with them. It's not always polished, like here's the messaging and then now you're receiving it. It's like, hey, here's how I felt today, and here's how this correlates to what I'm doing. And I'm kind of realizing that on today, I'm realizing it, and you guys are too. And I feel like connection has been the biggest thing for me. And like vulnerability is a really big buzzword, but as you know, when your career is wrapped up in what's like coming from your heart and soul, it can't be anything but that. From the point of creating it to the point of saying, hi, here it all is, like, I totally know you could reject it in the end. Like, it's just one big thing of vulnerability. So, but with that comes like so much deep connection, and with connection, I think really translates into sales.
So some ways that you're being vulnerable on Instagram, or just not, I don't want it to make people be like, I have to
bare my soul.
Like, you're like spilling our guts out and that's how you sell art. It's just being you. I was telling someone the other day, people aren't going to buy from you if they like, know, and trust you, and they're really not going to buy an $800 painting online that they've never seen in person if they don't have an ounce of like, know, and trust. And so Whitney, you're like letting people into your thought process while you're creating it. And that's like, you're typing that up in an actual post in the text on the actual post, and then you're talking to the camera on Instagram stories too.
Yeah, so sometimes it looks like a journal entry type post. Sometimes it looks like talking to the camera. Sometimes it looks like involving people in like, hey, do you guys think like purple or pink on this? Like, or like sometimes it looks like responding to a DM and someone saying like, oh, I did that thing with my kids too that day. You know what I mean? So I don't think it looks just this one way of like, here's my heart and soul, because not everyone's comfortable doing that. I mean, really representing yourself as an artist is a pretty new thing. And artists in general, I think, don't feel comfortable doing what sort of we have to do nowadays. Like that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why artists have been represented outside of themselves for decades. And, you know, if we all could do that, that'd be great. But I feel like if someone were representing me, what would I want them to say about me? And then I just have to say it myself. And so, and not in a sense of like, look, guys, like I'm so great. But like really unpacking what do I do? Like, how do I do it? And people want to know all those facets. And so in doing that can feel really hard when you're the person doing it, because you have to do a lot of work yourself to figure it out and then to like articulate it. It's just like a lot of work. So, but anyway, back to like connecting, like I don't think that it's just this one way of connecting. It could be just consistency, like someone knows that you might be a good resource. Maybe they'll be like, hey, I'm looking for like a great embroidery hoop for like a friend. Like, I just feel like you'll know who that is, because in the past they've seen you talk about that or share a friend that, you know what I mean? Like being a trusted resource too. It's just all these aspects of connection.
When you were talking about like, you've got to be your own art liaison kind of, you know, I think that that's like informalizing an artist statement. So
Yeah.
like showing them, like for this piece, for example, showing them the example that I gave from Dorothy is inspired by late 18th century portraiture, and putting a contemporary spin on her grandmother's blah, 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 you know.
But it's no longer third person, you know? It's
right. So it's like, y'all, my grandmother used to own an antique shop, and I used to grow up in that shop, and it's heartfelt for me. And so that's, you know, one of the reasons why I paint the subject. So you can personalize it, and people want to know your passion. People want to know why you're making.
Well, and I think what I've learned too is they want to see themselves in you or in whatever. Like if you think about scrolling your feed or anything you look at, you are looking at it, whether you want to or not, from how does this reflect my story? So like it is never about us as the artists to communicate, like, sure, we can share about why we're doing something, but like no one is looking for us to be like super awesome. Like they're not on Instagram looking for you or I to be awesome. They're looking on Instagram to say, oh, like that's a mom that like I'm a mom, and like, you know what I mean, to find some connecting point with you. And then in that they see a part of their story in your work. And that's why they buy it. They don't buy your work just because, sure, they might buy it because it's pretty, but even that is it's reflective of their home and their style. It's reflective of them. So that's what we have to keep remembering, is the pressure is off in that sense to be some amazing person, you know?
Yeah, I like that. So then leading up to, okay, so you're building up to, hey, go on this journey with me. I'm painting landscapes. And then you may have like a tidbit of the landscapes launch March 30th.
Yep.
And you're not going to say that every single time and bombard, but you're going to trickle it in.
Yeah. I feel like for every time I need to say something, I actually need to say it 5 times, or every time I think I need to say something, I need to say it 5 times. I just launched face masks with my fabrics.
Yeah.
I did it twice, and they sold out the first time, and they sold out the second time. And I gave so much build up, what I thought was so much build up, like talking about it all the time, whatever. And like people DMing me like, I'm so upset. Like they feel let down by me in a sense that they didn't like get the
That was
memo.
me. I was like, my phone alerted me, but I was holding cocoa and like I missed it.
And I just didn't realize the demand for masks in general. So y'all should make masks. Like, yeah, it's like, so you say like, we don't want to bombard, but like, I promise you, you will feel tired of yourself.
Yeah. Because
they're getting 1/5 of whatever you're putting out there messaging wise.
Right.
So I actually would err on the side of say it 3,000 times.
Yeah. Think of your favorite brand to follow on Instagram. You're not looking at them being like, oh, will they stop with the spring pajama collection already?
Yep.
Like it's, if you don't like it and if you don't heart it, then it's not going to come up. So in that sense, yeah, you're going to feel like you're saying it a million times, but that's good. And then, so another thing that I like that you do is remind them on the countdown on the Instagram stories. And then you also sometimes say, subscribe to my newsletter.
Yeah, I think countdown reminders are everything. And that's something I recently realized. Like at first I thought it was just like a cute, like 10, 9, 8. I didn't understand that they can save those countdown reminders. And it literally
so it alerts them.
It alerts you, unless you're Dorothy and you missed the mask reminder. I don't know. I don't know where you were, but like, yeah, people will save those countdown reminders and they may never come back. And then there's like weird spammers saving them too. And I don't understand that, but like in general, that is such a great way to get on their calendar. It's like the biggest tip I would give right now. And in regards to email newsletter, I view that as getting a completely different client. So like we just sent out a newsletter this morning for the launch in three mornings. So I think that that's a good timeline where you're fresh on their mind, but you're also giving them time to like ponder it. So you have customers that are going to just see your email, and you have customers that are going to see both, and that messaging is going to like compound on itself. But I think oftentimes the Instagram customer isn't the customer that's linking from the email. So you've got to get both of those customers.
Yeah. What do you do regarding Facebook?
You know, I just link everything from Instagram over to Facebook. So I don't spend a lot of time with that customer, but it is a different customer. It is a totally different customer than my Instagram customer. In general, it's an older customer. I think probably just based on who spends time where, you know, but yeah. Thinking through, and then I can get into this, but like collection launches on my website versus on stories is also a different customer. So knowing who you're reaching and how, I think is huge in diversifying that.
Meaning that sometimes you're only releasing something on stories and saying, yeah, DM me if you want to purchase this.
Yes. But it's still it's as calculated as an online release, but it's on stories. I have so much I could say about that because I'm really excited about that. Like as far as being a way to reach people.
So what do you want to say about that?
All the things. You guys, story sales. Oh my gosh. Well, so I you know, I feel like a lot of people sell stuff on stories. I think we all probably know it's a great way. It's sort of got a similar vibe to like getting something on Facebook Marketplace or, you know, whatever. But I think the dynamiteness of it is that you're reaching a customer that doesn't want to leave the app. That's sort of like here, it's now, it's scarce. I'm going to make this decision. But on your end of it, there's nothing impulsive about it. Like it's very, very thought out and planned. because if it wasn't, it would be completely stressful. I can unpack what I do when I launch one.
So you say, I want to have a sale on masks.
So yeah, I do it with stuff that's one of a kind or one time. Like,
because it's not worth putting it online. It's a lot of more steps to put it on your website.
No, I just think it reaches a different customer, and it's just as much work, in my opinion, as putting it. It's close. It's a close tie.
Okay, so you have 6 different masks. How do you put them on an Instagram story?
Well, so like so I would take really, really nice pictures of them, and then a lot of times, like I use Snapseed a lot. I don't know if you guys know that app, but it has like nice graphics. Like, I'm not a graphic designer.
Snapseed
is like my favorite photo editing app. I can do it super fast. I can add text that looks nice and doesn't look, ragtag. And so I get all of those slides like prepared way in advance for what I'm going to sell, including like terms. Like, so this is what's happening this time. And then I'm also saying, DM me to claim. I'll immediately take it down. So everyone's like, and I do that a couple hours before the sale launches. So they're like thinking like, okay, so this is coming at this time, and like there's a countdown, and like, I think they need a little bit of time because you're asking them to purchase it so fast. So, so I give them a couple hours. This is after I've given them a week or two of lead up to that story sale. So they have that first time, and they've got that couple hours. Oh yeah, this is happening. Okay, I'm ready. And then put the slides up, and then as they DM, they just say want, and then I immediately take the slide, take it down. And the reason it's so demanding is it's like you're literally have to be glued to your phone for like however long, an hour or two, communicating with us. But I like to think of it as like a personal shopping experience for them. Like we're interfacing, like they just bought it from me. It's almost like I just handed them the art, and like it's this very personal exchange. So you're giving them an opportunity to like to buy it directly from you and communicate with you about that. And also I can't tell you how many times they're like, yay, like I got it. Like it feels so, just personal in that sense,
Okay, so they say want, and then what do you say back? What's your PayPal? Or
no, so I always name the item. So say it's like a pouch or something, and it's called the like Elizabeth pouch or whatever. Okay. So when they DM me that, it shows up. They'll say like, like when you respond to a DM to a picture, it shows that image. Yeah. So they'll say want. And one thing that's really important is when I delete that slide, what they wanted is gone. I don't even know what it was. So what I do is I say, great, you got Elizabeth or whatever, great, and so then I have all those pictures to refer to what they bought.
Okay, so what you do is they say want underneath a picture, and then you automatically say, great, you type in, great, you got Elizabeth. Delete. And then you go back to the Elizabeth slide, delete that Elizabeth slide.
Yes. And then I come back to them after all the slides are gone, and then I do invoicing for it. I've never not had an invoice paid this way. Like you would think that this would be just, you'd get a bunch of like people that were like, oh, and then they wouldn't follow through. They follow through just as fast as, in my experience, as when they claim the item.
Okay, so do you ask for their zip code, or is it a flat shipping fee?
So it just depends on the item. Like okay. I might say that in the terms too. It'll be like, these are 4x4 paintings. They're all going to be $48 plus $5 shipping or whatever it is. To give them as much information up front so they feel confident in me and like they're a trusted, source.
You're putting the price on the slide.
Yes.
Because some people will say if it's like a big painting or something that's coveted and one, they'll just say DM to purchase, and they won't say the price. Yeah. But this is very transparent because they know that they want the sale.
It's the Elizabeth painting. It's $48. It's a 4x4. All of that is on the picture. And it's like once I've never had anyone even like inquire in that scenario because because they know like time is of the essence. And like you said earlier, scarcity really sells.
Yeah.
The fact that it's this one of a kind experience. It's great. I really go back and forth between a story sale and then on like a website launch. And there's not a huge rhyme or reason, but this one was so many products that was the main reason I'm going online with it.
Yeah. So you say great, and you invoice. How are you invoicing?
I invoice through the Square app, which is what I also use at markets.
Okay, and that's just sending them a link to the invoice. Do you even need their email for that?
No, I don't send them a link. I say, can I have your full name and can I have your full name, email, and mailing address? I'll get the invoice sent right over. And I do invoice immediately, like in that whole time frame. And so the reason I want their mailing address right then is to know whether to charge tax for the item if they're Tennessee or out. So then, but it gives me their, their address all set up. And it also, like, if there's a ship, if they're like, I'm in Canada, then you need to figure that out before you invoice.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I just say, can I have your first, last name, email, and mailing? And then I immediately invoice. So all of that happens over the course of like 1 to 3 hours, depending on how long, but it takes a lot of, like intense dedication, but
yeah, it's definitely like a going into another room, or
it's like mommy is not available. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it where like I've just sat in my car. Like I went to Starbucks, sat in my car. Like I don't have any distractions for that hour or so.
Yeah. And I just think we have the benefit right now, more than ever, of people wanting to shop small because they understand why. Because they saw the house of cards just fall, like they saw how things are working with mass production and everything being made overseas. And they're like, okay, they're seeing how that doesn't work and it's not sustainable. And I think as a result, I have been hesitant to sell online post-pandemic because it feels like, this big thing's happening in the world. But people are like, hey, if I'm gonna buy some coasters, they might as well be from you and not Hobby Lobby anymore. Like they kind of get it versus it just being a buzzword and like something cute, like shop small. I don't know. I've seen like a difference in the customer sort of delighting in support.
Yeah.
Not that they haven't always, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like a new, it's like a sweet season for small business owners, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, totally. So that's an Instagram story sell. That's that automatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's nerve-wracking the first time, first couple of times. I don't know, is it always like, it's still always kind of nerve-wracking?
Because you have people that are just skipping through like, oh, she hasn't sold very much, then 2 hours, or that's how I view that people are like, oh, I thought that would be better for her. It's just my own insecurity talking. But like, you're putting it out there like, hey, I'm gonna delete it when it sells. And so guess what? If it's up there, it hasn't sold, and everybody knows, it's like, it does feel vulnerable.
Yeah. Okay, so then even in the sense of like packaging, knowing, because lots of people on here may not have even sold something online or shipped it that often. I know for myself, like I'm running low on envelope mailers for my prints.
Yeah, girl.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was gonna launch another print collection in a couple weeks, and I'm like, can I even get what's normal? So I would say definitely, like, it might not be the ideal packaging that I've always had, and like this is what I buy from unlimitedbags.com, and this is what I've been doing for 8 years with my prints. But it's gonna be something that's sturdy that will get it there. I know. So I would just say, like, have your packaging ready to go for each product, because once you do ship, you don't want to like make one shipping label one day. You want to have a whole day set aside for shipping.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And then going on, what are some of your like best packaging suppliers? Maybe they're different than mine. Maybe we can give people lots to look at.
I mean, we've shopped. We actually do buy a lot on Amazon. Uline, clear bags. Yeah, clear bags.
Yeah, clear bags is one. That's good. I'm trying to think who else.
Yeah, and yeah, packaging is hard because it's like one of those things where if you buy 5,000, then it's very, reasonable.
I do.
Arrow has thought about this, but we need to like have like Arrow should have like its own packaging shop.
We will. Not in the concept shop, but in our forever home, we will have shipping.
I knew you thought of that.
For things that are like recreatable, like my prints, I ship USPS. If it's something small, I shipped my like Florentine panel birds. They're less than 100, so I ship that USPS. Actual like paintings, I ship FedEx. If you're shipping a big painting or something pretty fragile, FedEx will charge to package it, as y'all probably already know. I will even go into the store and be like, I want that painting or that box for the painting, and I'm going to go over in this corner and put my own tape on it for $18 less.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are just like some fast tidbits on shipping. Okay, so the shipping is after the launch. Someone asked before the launch, photo-wise. Photos now are like, it's not all of online sales because you can do like that DM, the DM story side. Not everything has to be Instagram perfect, but what do you do? What's your percentage of time spent creating? Oh, sorry, that was another question. Where is the question? Y'all have some good questions. We're gonna get to these. How much of your time is dedicated to photographing your work and building that content for your feed?
So the best way I can describe it is if I have like a 5-hour day in the studio, I've pretty much learned that my creating time, like I'm good for about 4 hours creating and like actively, intensely creating. And even that might be more like 3, but I'm not starting to look at, the squirrels. So I would say, and I might take pictures and edit them for an hour, create for 3 hours, check email and package stuff for the last hour. Like, so it's a small sliver in the sense of I'm still definitely creating the 75% of the time that I'm in the studio. And then
so how much of that time are you dedicating to photographing your work?
To photographing my work? Say I have like a collection of 15 paintings to photograph those and edit those well is going to take me an hour and a half probably to do that well, as far as like staging it, getting the right light, all of that. But just to encourage you guys, like I am not a photographer at all. I take all my pictures on my phone and then I edit in a free app. So, I do hire out photography sometimes for stuff that like I could not do. But as far as just like a flat lay type of photography that you would use for a story sale or that you would use for a web sale, you guys could totally do that. And like, I don't want to, like you guys probably all know this, but like natural light is your best friend. And then, playing with your exposure and your contrast. And it's really, that's another great workshop idea is just to show how to do like a simple flat lay and a simple edit. So many people give away their presets too. But I don't even own Lightroom or anything, like, to be honest. Need some good sunlight, not direct.
Yeah.
Filtered sunlight.
I typed in before about 2 weeks ago, I was using Visco, VSCO. And then now I'm using it's either Photoshop Express or Photoshop Mix. I can't remember which one, but it's super easy. I'm just tapping, making my whites white.
Yep.
And boosting the color a little bit so that it is back to what it is in real life. So just trying to get it back to what it is in real life for your customer. As far as like launching, you said it, doing those photos, you know, like I've been caught where, oh, I was gonna do this in like good light and then it rains.
Yeah.
And so I really try to give myself a couple of days. I feel like every single step, especially the first time doing a launch, every single step you want to add to oops days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like everything for the collection that I'm launching Friday is on the website already. So it's already, not only is it photographed, edited, everything, all the listings are there. They're just waiting for the clock to expire. So because you accept the coasters that I made today, but like almost everything, 90% of it. And I think that, that's huge, is because otherwise it feels so stressful. You want launch day to feel like you could just kick back and have a cocktail.
Celebration.
You know?
Yeah. And then just hear your phone cha-ching. Okay. So you're starting to make the work. You slowly say, I've got a landscape launch on March 30th. You're showing behind the scenes. People love that. I asked my followers the other day, I said, what's your favorite part of following a brand or an artist? And it was like 5-1 behind the scenes.
Well, and again, like they want to see themselves in that. So they want to see, like, they want to learn something, right? So it's like people want, my most interacted with stories are when I show myself painting, and those feel so insecure because I'm really letting people in, but they want to learn, like, oh, that's what, you know, happens when you do this with this paint and whatever. Even if they don't ever want to be a, you know, painter, they're just so interested in something they don't know about. So I think that that's why they connect so much with that.
I think that there's something to say for, like, some people have been nervous, like they don't want to give away their trade secrets. That's not who's following you on here.
Yeah.
Sure. They definitely want to feel like, oh, and I watched her make that piece.
Yeah.
They want to, and then, like, you know, building a cutting board, a gorgeous heirloom cutting board, is a lot of steps. Enlighten your customer as to why that cutting board is $125.
Yeah. I don't see the Archer sisters on here, but that's something they're really good at unpacking with what they do.
We're going to get them on here too to talk about, like, how they showcase their work and market it as well. And then
so yeah, you were saying, like, connect, like, I guess engaging the process with them, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And I, like, sometimes, does that feel vulnerable to, like, you said it's vulnerable, do you ever feel like, oh, I said I'm gonna make this, I better make it even if my heart's not in it, or, like, even if it's not turning out good?
I don't think people pay that close of attention, to be honest. I don't think people are like, oh, it's, you might have one person that's like, hey, it's Monday and you said you'd do that, you know, like, that's so rare. But I do think there's something to be said about having a sort of fluidity with the people that are really engaged. So, like, today I posted track back tomorrow, these, like, or I posted a process picture of my coasters, and I said track back tomorrow for some up close pictures of them, because I need to take pictures of them for listings tomorrow. That's got to happen. So that's bringing them into, like, hey, here's something tomorrow, and it makes it feel more like a relationship. And again, 99% of those people are going to be like, forget that I said that, and they're not going to, they might happen to see it tomorrow, but they're not going to remember that. But that, or something like saying, making your post correlate with your stories that day, it makes you feel like you're an alive person. So it's like, here's what I did, and then check, or today in stories, see the behind the scenes. It's like, it's not just this frozen in time, like, pretty picture. It's like, no, this was created like today on a Tuesday, you know,
And Instagram likes that. They like you
correlating those things. Yeah.
go back and forth. The algorithm likes that.
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, I think it's just because again, your stories person is different than your feed person, right? You have people that don't even look at the feed. So you're in that way, you're both getting both people, if there are two people, but you're also the people that are super engaged. They're like, I think that's a really pretty picture. Now I get to go learn more about it. Like it feels like an unpacking. They feel really a part of that. And then on top of that, then they might DM you about it and you have an opportunity to engage further. And like those are the people that end up buying something. Like you can have a ton of followers, but at the end of the day, if you have a collection of 20 items, only 20 people or less are going to buy those items. And so you've got a really small sliver of people to even connect with. So it really shouldn't feel that that overwhelming. Or maybe your collection is 5 pieces. So you've just got to get 5 people to feel connected enough with that work. And when you break it down like that, it doesn't feel like, oh man, like I couldn't do this because I only have X number of followers or whatever.
Yeah.
It's always a percentage of whatever following you have that's gonna pull the trigger. So
yeah, totally. How much time is, oh wait, that's sorry. I'm bad at reading questions, obviously. Look at me. How important is your website? How often are you updating it?
my website's really important, but I do neglect that more. Becca does all of my website stuff, and I say that to say it's really hard to keep up with all of that yourself. Like, and so if you're not doing a good job keeping up with all of that, like I get it. It's like 2 different worlds to keep up with Instagram and the website. To like have your pictures be linked, so that you've got all your most recent body of work on your website for your portfolio, and just all of that. It's a lot. So, you could look at this quarantine time as a time to really refine some of that.
And yeah, we're gonna have a website. I feel like we're doing all these things. Chime in on what website platforms y'all have, or if you're leaning towards one. I want to learn that as well. I've just started doing this. I told myself, well, number one, I haven't been in my home studio in forever. I've been at Arrow, building Arrow. And so it's been a great way to, just create, and I'm trying new things during this time. And so I said, I just want to make new things. And every Thursday during this quarantine, I'll launch it, and all of the proceeds are going back to Arrow. But I kind of made myself, I said, okay, the only way I'm going to do this is if I give myself like a pretty solid, yet I think easy timeline. So what I'm doing is I'm having my Instagram, like things on Instagram on the my feed aren't that, they're thought out somewhat, but like it's I'm like taking pictures, and then those pictures in turn go into a blog post, and that blog post is like explaining the why behind that collection launch.
That's a great idea.
And then that blog post also is recycled into 2 emails. One, like what Whitney said before, like I just sent out today, I said, hey, on Thursday, the portraits and puzzles are launching at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Just heads up, y'all are my newsletter. I give like maybe 2 sentences of the why behind. And then I say like, if you want to see some behind the scenes, or I say like in progress, and it's a link to my Instagram. And then it's another second email of that, like at 8 o'clock on Thursday, that's the launch. So it goes Instagram feed and Instagram stories, turn into a blog post, turn into 2 emails, a pre and a launch. And so there, I've been building the photography for it all week long. I've been building that imagery. And then it's just putting it up. And luckily Shopify has where you can create a blog post on your phone. So it's pretty easy on on Shopify. But so that's been like one way that I've just made myself, okay, I want to update my website to like build traffic as well. And then those blog posts in turn will become pinnable on Pinterest. So
you've got it all linked up.
No, it's not fully, but it's like I'm doing about like what I just said, that streamline. The Pinterest, I haven't pinned every single thing yet. Yeah. But it's when I'm just making myself like, okay, these are the steps. And if I can break it down into that, then it seems achievable.
Yeah.
So photographing, is there a way that you categorize or like put into folders? Is there a best practices for that? How do you and Becca or like, this is the image for this?
Yeah, so I just use Google Photos. I create a folder and then I share it with her or with myself, whoever's going to list it. And then those are all, and then I'll like comment like, this is a 5x7 and it's going to be this much money. And then
so you're commenting on the photo so that Becca, when she's uploading it, will know. Okay.
That's just the comment. Or I'll send her an email with all like with copy on what I want, like kind of with each listing. I want to make sure that there is a memo that the butterflies have embroidered like details on them, you know, stuff that she might not think about because she didn't make it and you might not even see it in the picture. So just stuff like that, just to clarify. But I mean, that if you're doing that yourself, like I would just say to sit down and think through like the messaging on it, and is that cohesive from listing to listing, and is the listing to listing also cohesive with what I said in my email, you know, just to make sure all of that is. It's almost easier if it's just one person than having to communicate your brain to someone else, you know. Make sure
and that cohesive copy, if you take 10-15 minutes to write it out once long form, it's a simple cut and paste. So you're not having to, you know, be like, oh, this is, you know, on gallery wrapped canvas. It has thick 2-inch sides, so you don't need a frame. It comes wall ready, you know. So all those like bullet points and details that you're giving your customer, if you just have that right away, it's a simple cut and paste.
And this probably sounds like so like, of course, Whitney, but like, don't try to do this on your phone. Like, do it on your computer. Like, I have tried to do just anything on my phone, like that makes everything feel 10 times harder. And I know we're on our phones a lot, but get on your laptop to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys figured that out long before I did, but
no. Sometimes I'll get lazy and then I'll be like, I just need 10 minutes on my computer if it would take.
But I would,
okay, someone asked, do you have an advertising budget? For example, boosting Instagram posts or Facebook posts, do they work?
So I, all of last year, all of 2019, I paid to boost my posts, and probably about $50 to $100 a month. I didn't do like a ton, but I just wanted to see what came out of it. And I might not be your girl to ask about that, because I've got friends that have 4 ads running every day, and you know, they've got 40 employees for their, you know, it's working. So I think it's just do what you can when you can. I do see my traffic bump up a lot. And I will say one thing I learned, if you are going to boost a post, is make sure it's at least 4 days, 4 to 5 days. And because you're not going to see the boost happen until like the end of day 2, for whatever reason, like nobody's seeing it, boom, everybody's seeing it finally. I have no idea why, but don't just do a 2-day ad. It's not going to be worth your money. And then really like go in there and specify, like take the time to create the ad to who you want it to go to. That kind of feels like annoying, like, okay, I'm just gonna, sure, people in Detroit can see it or whatever, but like you want to be kind of focused on your age. And I mean, you can look at your analytics to see who's my customer to begin with. My customer is 96% women. They're almost all millennials, a little bit older than millennial too, but and so that's exactly who I'm targeting in my ad, you know. So if you're going to do it, make the bang for your buck. I gained a lot more just followers from doing that, you know. And by a lot, it might be not even that much, like 30 per ad or something, you know. So I have not seen it translate into sales the way that just other things do. Pinterest translates into sales for me really, really well.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, we asked or answered what percentage of your time is spent creating new merchandise versus shooting product. How are you dividing your time across the process? So we spoke on that, I believe. Do you have anything else to add over that?
I don't think so, unless there's another question, if my answer wasn't clear, which is totally a possibility.
And what is your website on?
I use Squarespace, but to be honest, and I'm interested, see Lindsay and Debbie, you guys are using Squarespace. Squarespace is easy, it's beautiful, I think it's a great starting point, but I don't think it grows with you very well. The things I hear that Shopify does, I just wish I was on Shopify now. The way it links to other apps. You're using Shopify, Dorothy? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think it's like $35 a month. And you know, when I was on hiatus, meaning like not creating, I was just selling prints because I was focusing on building Arrow. That I was like, oh, should I even keep it? But I would still, and then I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, I'm selling X amount of prints and that's justifying, you know. But yeah, it is a little bit more, but if you think about it, $20 more, and then you have all those plugins.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm doing a lot of like all these Thursday launches. I'm doing probably about 80% of them on my phone while I'm feeding the baby. Because the app is so easy.
Yeah, I think user friendliness and also just the way that it grows with your business. Like I'm paying whatever top tier Squarespace, which it's not even that much, but like I kept having to build up to the top tier for different things I needed as my business grew. Like, oh, I want to offer a gift card option. Oh, well, that's in this next tier. I mean, yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful if you want just something beautiful and simple and you're not trying to do a lot of customizations. Like just even today, a question that popped up is, can we give a different confirmation email? When someone goes on my website and buys something, can I give them a different confirmation email with different messaging if they selected local pickup? If they put that in the coupon code? No, you can't. It's just even just little stuff like that. It's like,
yeah.
It's that kind of stuff. It's like really getting into the weeds of it. And you're like, man, that would just offer my customer like such a more clear experience. And I can't do that. So yeah, we're going to switch over, but.
Yeah, shipping rates. I probably just need to say this is a whole entire day and I'm going to hone in on shipping rates and like weighted, and it's obnoxious. But other than that, that's the only qualm I can think of right now. Arrowcreative.org is on Wix. Abby let me onto that and now I love it. You know, I was at first it wasn't that awesome for me just because I was so in Shopify mode, but now I can work both. I do have Squarespace for the podcast too. I don't update it as much as I should, but I haven't used like the shop version for it. And then for the arrowcreative.org shop, we already had all of the items on Square. So we are using the Square online platform and just put that onto arrowcreative.org. So all those items, if you have your items in a Square reader for markets, I'm not sure. Oh, it says Weebly. The Square store for Arrow is through Weebly, Jackie says. So that is, Jackie, are we paying for, how much is a Weebly? If you've already got your items in Square. Oh, it just syncs with $12 a month. Okay, great. Yeah, so if you might have already been like, okay, I sell scarves, red, blue, and white at markets, and you already had all that information, it's definitely worth $12 a month. Just itemizing that, and it's already there. You might be adding pictures too. I know we keep on saying, oh, we're going to do this, oh, we're going to do that. We really are. Jackie is going to be teaching us kind of like a how-to easy with a light box of how to make that seamless product image for websites as well. That's on our to-do list of rolling that out to y'all. Let's see. Debbie, yeah, I'm frustrated about not being able to use Shopify. Dorothy, would you give that list again of how you link things? What do you mean linking? What was I talking about?
Like how you were saying it, like something links to a blog post and then that's easy.
It's not really truly linking. It's not like the if that then this app or whatever that is. It's just me going, and I haven't totally dumbed it down yet, but I'm starting to do it on a Trello board. Andy taught a Trello class. It was great. Trello is an organizing tool for projects. And so I have a whole Trello board that I just created. It's called Product Launch. And I'm really trying to just hone down on the steps of like, okay, I am showing my process on Instagram. Then I pull those images into a blog post where I kind of make it like a journal entry with the birds. It was like, what was it? Fight or flight. And then I talked about like why I painted these birds and what that meant to me. You can shop them here. And there was a link to the actual product. And then from there, I just use that same copy and that same email or same photos to make MailChimp emails. And then from there, when I have some down moments, I will then put them up on Pinterest so that sales can trickle back. What else? Does anyone else have any other questions? I think I've learned a lot. I hope y'all have too. We really just, it is some work up front, but once you get the hang of the launch, you're gonna be so happy that you did, because you're not just throwing something up and seeing if it sticks. It's really like this feeling of it makes the people that I follow that do product launches, it makes it feel way more official. And it makes it feel like you're in a club, kind of, that you've got, like you said, your followers got that, like they feel like, I'm one of the 8 that bought the moon paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like if you, like I kind of view it as like, so here's the things I should do. I should send people to my stories, and I should, all the things we talked about tonight, like as the skeleton, and then the flesh of that is just you being yourself on any given day and like communicating that how you would, and it not being, because if you just focus on these are the rules and this is how I go about this to sell it, it's not going to sell because it's not going to be you, right? It's going to be you following like some rules,
right?
That somebody told you work. So I think your messaging is what's going to connect to your customer, the way you say it, the way you see it, the way, so I think that that's encouraging, or it should be at least. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's why people, we've said it time and time again tonight, and I feel like a broken record saying it, but people want to like, know, and trust you. Don't be afraid to tell your story, and don't be afraid to feel like a broken record, because people are going to hear and see bits and pieces along the way. They're not going, every single time Whitney Winkler gets on, she's not talking about being a mama of 3 and creating in the margins. She's talking about, this, that, and the other, and it all leads to the beauty of the creating in the margins. But, she's not a broken record, because not every single person is watching every single thing that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I know we feel like that, but.
And that's the biggest obstacle is yourself, to feel like,
yeah,
I've said this so many times in so many different ways, and and if you really feel like you just can't say it again, like, just don't post that date. Nobody's gonna miss it. It's not like people are gonna notice you're gone. I mean, there's some days I've had a lot of anxiety about putting myself out there again. Some days more than others, and those days I'm just like, all right, bye, peace. I'm not doing this. Wait till a day that I can do that again, because it is tiring. This is not like I don't think it's easy to create from your heart and soul and then just put that on a platter every day. Like, that's really hard. What we're doing is really hard. So anyway.
And then someone, in the start of all this, some creatives were like, I don't want to try to sell anything online. Everyone's hurting. I don't want to sell.
Oh yeah.
What do you say to that?
Well, I think I touched on it earlier, that people understand the why behind shopping small now more than ever. I've had friends say that to me, that it's not just this kind of cute phrase, like, I bought it local. Like, I think people get it. And also, if people can't, they just won't. And so, and that's okay. Like, the first, when all this happened, I had all these moons that were ready for Art by Design for my vignette. And I was like, okay, I could hold these until August, or till, maybe not even August. Like, that's what it's scheduled for, but who knows. Okay. Or I could just sell them, and that felt really vulnerable. And so in the post, I was like, hey guys, I feel super weird about this, and like, I know it's like a heavy time. And that response was one of the best responses I've had to a collection. I think the people that could were like, hey, we're there, we're right there, like, holding you up right now, and joyfully so. It wasn't like, I guess I'll donate to that,
Yeah.
It's a give and take. They're getting something too. So not everyone has lost their job. Like, you have to remember, like, you aren't your customer, right? So I couldn't buy my painting right now, like, truly, but like, maybe someone else can. And so if they're not your customer, they're not your customer, and that's okay. But I realize it's touchy when something so heavy is going on in the world. It can feel a little trite to be like, hey guys, today I have some bows for sale. But on the other hand, some people are just seeing it as a bright spot to put their kid in.
And you don't know who is out there listening. Somebody, little girl's hair may be getting really, really long because they can't go get a haircut, and they need a bow because
you don't know their story or why they connect with it.
No. So anyway, I would just encourage everyone to, like, just show up, be yourself, be your authentic, true self. If it feels salesy, really just step back and ask the why. Go back to the why, and share that. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. In the comments, please put in any more topics that you'd like to see like this. Anyone else that you'd like to hear from. Arrow is here to lift and serve the creative entrepreneur. And so we want to be giving you as many examples of success stories as we can. And yeah, thank you so much, Whitney,
Thank you
for
guys
sharing
so
your
much.
tips.
So fun to be here.
Awesome. I will see everyone later on Zoom, probably. See you on Zoom.
We'll Zoom ya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.